Hi everyone, and welcome to Bob's Wood Stuff. Today I'm going to walk you through my experience building this belt sander powered dice tumbler.
The first thing I did was measure my belt sander so I knew what size to make the jig. Then I ripped some plywood to 4 inches wide for the sides of the jig. After that I cross-cut the plywood to the correct length to make all the sides. The two end pieces need to be a little shorter than the sides so that they don't hit the sanding belt. I needed a piece that's 45 degrees to go on the back of the jig. Then I applied a little bit of glue to stick the angled piece to the back wall. I ripped some wood into square stock on the table saw and then fine-tuned it with my hand plane. Then using my bandsaw with a fence and a miter gauge, I cut cubes out of the square stock. I put the belt sander in my woodworking vise and then cleaned off the sandpaper. Then I adjusted the tracking to make sure the belt stays in the middle. And then clamped the jig to the belt sander. It seemed to be working all right, but then the die popped out of the jig, so I need to add some kind of a lid. At first I used this piece of scrap beech I had sitting around, but the vibrations made it slide around, so I put some sandpaper under it, which kept it still. But I really wanted to see what was going on inside the jig, so I cut open this water bottle to make a clear shield. It seemed to be working pretty well. The dice were bouncing around and it was rounding off the edges, but I could only get about 3 in there at a time before it started getting jammed up. I decided to adhere some sandpaper to the walls in hopes that it would work faster with more abrasion. And I used some different scrap plastic to make a clearer top for more visibility. This made it look a lot better, but as I left it running I could see them getting jammed up against the angled piece of wood. The easiest solution was to tilt the whole contraption so that they just don't get stuck against that piece. And this worked out pretty well. The longer I left the dice in the machine, the rounder the edges would get, and they would roll a lot better.
So this was a really fun project. It's just really fun to watch the dice bounce around inside the device. It was a little bit difficult to attach to my belt sander, but if you have one with a larger rim on the outside, it'll probably be easier. I read about this in a book called 500 Workshop Tips and Jigs, but they described it as a way to make a wooden ball, and I don't think it's really good for that. It would take forever to actually get a round ball, but it's a great way to polish off the edges of some dice. So I'll probably make some board games.